If you have not followed his Triple H Horse Racing podcast, you're missing out. It's one of the best podcasts in the country.
Hello and welcome to the HHH Racing Podcast. I'm your proud host, Howard Kravitz, along with co-hosts Paul Halloran and Pete Visco for a special edition of Picks and Ponies. This is our preview of the 8th edition of the Pegasus World Cup this Saturday at Gulfstream Park. We are excited to talk about that race with you. Please make sure you subscribe on the bottom right-hand side of the screen and also hit that notification bell and the thumbs up button, the like button as well. And below the video player, we'd love to hear your comments on who is going to win this year's Pegasus World Cup. Of course, you can follow us on X right there at H Kravitz, and Paul and Pete you can see on their name tags as well. We also have a great website, hhhracingpodcast.com. We also have a fantastic tip sheet. Look below the video player for our Power Picks tip sheet and many other pieces of information. Paul, 8th edition of the Pegasus World Cup. Nice field of 12 with an AE. No superstars this year, but a very good betting race this year.
Well, I agree with that, Howard, especially if you're against the favorite. We'll talk about that a little later on. But, yes, I think it's, there's a few logicals at the top, but I think there's more than one horse at double digits that has more than a puncher's chance here.
Can't wait to hear what Paul's got to say. Pete, like I said, there's no superstars. The favorite is National Treasure. We're going to go through, for everyone at home here, we're going to go through every horse in a just short amount, and then we'll give our predictions at the end of the show. Also, we'll talk about the pace projector, how we see the race flow. This is a very interesting race. It is a 1.8 miles, Pete. And as we've talked about many times on this show and other races at Gulfstream, that 1.8 miles is a pretty quick run in the first turn.
Yeah, it is. I think that's why Safi, if you read his comments about Skippy Longstocking, was not too pleased with drawing the 12 hole. We actually saw, and we will maybe mention it, I saw that he was saying he wasn't even sure if he was going to run. He got an invitation to Saudi potentially coming, so he wasn't even 100% in. And I was a couple days ago, so I don't know if that's changed. But that's drawing outside, going into that short run to the turn is going to be tough, especially for any horses who want to be closer to the lead.
Well, we'll talk about him. I think if he does end up scratching, I don't expect that, by the way, but if he does, I think that does change the race slightly. We'll get into that, guys. Let's go and bring up the field for the 2024 $3 million Pegasus World Cup. You see it right here coming up on the screen. There it is, guys. Again, field of 12 with 1 AE. The Moorline favorite is Bob Baffert's number 7, National Treasure, the Preakness winner, and almost won the Breeders' Cup Dirt and Mile with a heartbreaking defeat to Cody's Wish, who is the probable, or at least one of the strong candidates for Horse of the Year, which by the time you watch this video may already have been named as we are filming this on Wednesday evening. Let's go ahead right to the PPs. We're going to go through every single horse. I will start first. Nimitz class on the rail, 21 morning line. Now used to be trained by certainly a trainer with the best last name, or would have been the one of the best last names in this race. Kravitz, Bruce Kravitz, no relation, by the way. George Weaver, very interesting, an excellent trainer, takes over. To me, this is frankly a no-hoper for Zayas. I suppose he could save ground from the rail and maybe, get a nice third or fourth placed horse. I've always liked this horse quite a bit, to be very honest, but this is a major step up in class. I just don't think he classes up. You can see Byers pretty consistently. He's got some low 100s. He's got the kind of style that would do well in this race from the rail where he's tactical. If he gets a small piece, it wouldn't shock me. On the win end, that would surprise me greatly. Paul, we're going to go to you second, because there's a horse here that you and I have talked about quite a bit on the show, along with Pete. This was my top choice, embarrassingly so, last year. He did not run a hoof, but he is returning to form, the number 2 O'Connor, Paul.
Paul, was this a host fail that he didn't put himself on O'Connor, or was that a little bit of a
right? He takes the Pennsylvania bred that I saw win on Pennsylvania Derby Day, and I have all sorts of information on. By the way, Howard, that was a private sale. That's why the trainer switch. He was bred and owned by a guy named Tom Coulter, who owns Arrowwood Farm in York Springs, PA. I'm guessing he sold to Sheikh Farhad and Mr. Jake Ballas for a pretty penny. And I will just say this before I go on to talk about the most overrated horse in the last 10 years, that if it does come up wet, and I don't think it's forecast to, but if they, by any chance they do, give this horse a second look. Anyway, O'Connor, certainly he can't be as bad as he was in this race. You didn't pick him in this race at 25-1 last year, Howard. Surely you couldn't have picked him in this race.
We're going to find out.
I meant last year. You didn't pick him in this race last year.
I did.
Oh, no, that was a good pick. He's run some decent races. I joke a little bit. He is 12
Paul,
to 27.
by the way, let me explain this to you. We want people to watch our videos, not think we give bad picks. Just FYI.
Yeah, you're the one who said you took him. There's no reason for you to admit that.
I did. I did. Anyway, I took a shot. Didn't work out. Go ahead, Paul.
Well, if it makes you feel better, I think I took Art Collector, who won the race. Anyway, he's again. Would it be a shock if this horse wins? No. Do I think he's overrated? It's what I like to own him. 12 for 27, 750. Yes, the horse came over here from Chile a year ago, April, had that smash debut. And really, if you look at it, he's only had two really bad races since. The aforementioned Pegasus and the Woodward, which he was just overmatched. But, hey, 2 wins in a row, Howard. You ain't going to get 25-1 on him this year.
No, and we got Paco riding, and he's going to save ground. That's O'Connor. Number 3.
Paco riding for Michael Averone. Let's root for him.
Number 3 is Dynamic One, 15-1. Todd and Irad at a price, Pete?
No, I talked about one last race, Rapoli, and when we were talking about the Pegasus Turf, Rapoli, Pletcher, this time with Irad instead of Jose. Sadly, I like this horse. We won't talk about that yet, but this horse intrigues me, I should say. Only ran once in 2023, which is, that's not the greatest thing. Or only ran once in 2023 off of a year plus long layoff. So you don't really know what you're getting. But Irad is up. It is Pletcher. I don't know if he has races in the past that win this, but I think he has races that are close. So if he is better, and if you look, those last 2 works were pretty strong. So if he is somehow better, and that last race was just sort of hey, we just want to get him on the track, run a little bit. He was too far back. You could tell that Irad just sort of shut him down a bit. I think there might be something in here, even if it's just to hit the board at a pretty big price. Pletcher Irad combo, 31% win, 62% on the dirt at Gulfstream. They know how to win races here. I don't know about this one. This one's intrigues me.
Very interesting. Look, this is a $3 million race. All these horses are going to be cranked up the best of their ability to win here. Let's move on here to the field. Hoist the Gold. This is a horse that upset the field in the Cigar Mile over a muddy surface and ran a complete hole in the wind, a 109 buyer, a 128 time form. By far the best race this horse has ever run for Dal Stewart and Johnny V. He is going to be a major pace player in this race. I never really thought that highly of him, to be very honest. He flashed some nice efforts before. You see, he won the Phoenix at Keeneland, mainly going shorter. He has never gone a mile and an eighth. This is quite an ask, but he is the inside speed in this race. And in theory, if Johnny V is aggressive, he will have the lead in this race if he wants it. The big question is, he want distance? I'm completely and totally against Hoist the Gold on Saturday, despite the fact that he might have the lead. I think there's other pace pressure. He's never gone this far. He's never gone 2 turns. He's never been at Gulfstream. There's just a lot of things I personally don't like. But if you want someone up on the lead, this could be your horse. Paul, let's go to the number 5, Trademark, who upset the Clark last time over First Mission, who is a major player in this race at 13-1. Vicky Oliver, an excellent trainer. Fernando de la Cruz keeps the mount.
Yeah, I just think this horse has all the looks of last time was the time Howard did 13-1. You may not get much more than that this time. Tougher field. I'm going to land on the horse he beat, but I think a mile and an eighth at Churchill Downs is very much a different animal than a mile and an eighth at Gulfstream as far as track flow goes. So again, I don't blame anyone. That was a big effort, and certainly great to see Vicky Oliver win that race, but I feel that last time was the time to have this horse.
Let's go on to the number 6, Pete, Senior Buscador, a personal favorite of a lot of people, and I'm sure you like this horse as you love the closers. When I saw this morning line, I have to admit, Pete, I was a little surprised. 20-1 on Senior Buscador, who in theory has numbers that fit in this race.
Yeah, it definitely does. My biggest question, and you're right, I do like this horse again because of the monster closer. There is pace, as we'll talk about when we get to the time form pace projector, but there is pace in here, so it should suit. My question with Senior Buscador is always, I feel like for a deep closer, he likes sort of a mile and a 16th down, and I think when he goes beyond that, it sort of saps some of his closing kick out of it. So that's why I don't really necessarily love him in here on the win end. He could always get a piece because he's always running late. And I think Alvarado picked him up last time, has him again. He ran well with him, but it was closing from, the clouds basically to get behind Hoist the Gold. That was going a mile, again, a little bit shorter, which I think this horse just likes. So I don't love him on the win end, but I think he always gives you, he's another one, always gives you a run. So you're always going to feel pretty good if you have him in a try or a super or something like that.
Well, that's a good point, Pete, for all the horse players out there, because people think, well, a closer wants to run all day. Paul, we talked about the Belmont 1,000 times on this show, where a Belmont, it's a mile and a half, that's going to help the close. No, not necessarily. In Gulfstream, it is hard to close him deep, but he's very honest and always makes a run. Let's go to the number 7. This is the this is the morning line favorite. National Treasure, 9-5 for Baffert. As we said at the beginning of the top of the show, ran a huge race with a 107 Beyer top in the Breeders' Cup Dirt Mile, just losing to Cody's Wish. That was a 128 time for him. His other big victory was in the Preakness in May. Guys, I'll put myself on screen. This horse wants the lead. If he does not get the lead, he has not been nearly as good. Just look at the PPs. And I don't think he's getting the lead in this race. Baffert, I'll give some Baffert stats at the end of the show. He's been very good in this race. The last 2 times he's run a horse in this race with Defunded and then Mucho Gusto. I will just say right out before we get to the end of the show here, I am totally against National Treasure. I don't like him at all in this spot. He's honest. He does have tactical speed. He does have the kind of style that would do well at Gulfstream. I just have never thought that much of this horse. I'm personally against it. We'll find out what Paul and Pete think here in just a little bit. Let's go on to the 8, Paul. First Mission, a horse we've seen in person, Paul, at Keeneland at the Lexington Stakes, when I think you happened to do pretty well in a contest that day in April 15th, tax day 2023. First Mission 7-2, Cox and Saez, Paul.
Yeah, I just think that this horse is in line for a big 4-year-old campaign. Again, no excuses last time. Trademark did catch him on the square, but I'm with you on National Treasure. We'll talk about it at the end. One note on him, Howard, and we were there for this. This horse, National Treasure, could not have had more things go his way last time. Zozos is supposed to be on the lead or battling him for the lead and absolutely never showed up. I'm going to tell you what, how looking at this PP on paper, freaking Cody's Wish should win Horse of the Year, because this horse could not have had a better trip last time and still got caught. The Preakness was, placed. It would be insulting to ants everywhere to say they crawled in the Preakness. So anyway, back to First Mission. Yeah, I think this horse is pretty good. I mentioned we were talking about the track. that was a great run that we saw, Howard, for coming off a maiden win. You recall that Lexington, he was in very tight on the rail. I think it was Mr. Irad Ortiz who made it tight for him, which is totally, it was a shocker to those of us who witnessed it. But yeah, I think, as I recall, Howard, you and I were dying to bet this horse in the Preakness when he was scratched. So if I were going to bet him in the Preakness, I'm going to bet him in the Pegasus.
The number 9, Grand Aspen, ran a big race last time, Pete. This might be an up-and-coming, somewhat lightly raced 5-year-old for Pletcher and Jose Ortiz. Lost to the great O'Connor last time in the Harlan's Holiday. Has tactical speed. The 9-hole, not ideal, but does have some speed to maybe get over and save ground in the first turn.
Yeah, that's sort of what I was thinking. I think from a time form, early pace we'll talk about, but is right up there. So if can break, should get close, and if National Treasure and National Treasure and Hoist the Gold do go, I think Grand Aspen can sit right behind, and we'll talk about that. The one thing I thought he did most of the dirty work in the race against O'Connor, and then O'Connor just sort of caught him late. But I thought Grand Aspen, who had New York traffic, I think, if I remember correctly, sitting right off, so was taking pressure the whole time, then had to deal with O'Connor and still held pretty well. I think this horse maybe just doesn't, I'm not sure about classing up to this field just yet, but I think on the up and up, this is a horse that could progress and move forward and start to at least be a graded stakes horse. I'm just not sure on the win end this is the day to do it, especially from the post, but it wouldn't shock me in the least just because I don't think he's beaten any superstars here.
Well, he's had an interesting career. I mean, they had him on turf, and I'll tell you what, he's progressive. He's getting better. If there's a horse that you want that could step up on Saturday and increase their buyer and run a lifetime top, I think Grand Aspen could be the one. Very interesting at 8-1, a little bit low in my opinion on the morning line. Number 10, Almera Colo is a fun horse, is an honest horse. Had a good 3-year-old year. I mean, underrated, won 465,000 last year. This is just a brutal spot for the 10-hole. He's sort of mid-pack. He projects to be wide into the first turn. I don't think he has much of a chance at all to win this race. If he runs his very best, maybe he can clunk up for 3rd or 4th, in my opinion. But he's an honest sort. You'd love to own this horse by gun runner out of a Tappets mare, Tappets World, trained by Antonio Sano, who knows to win at Gulfstream with Javier Castellano. It seems like he won every big race last year. Why not this race at 30-1? Who knows? The number 11 is Kopy Paul for another one for Todd, with Dettori taking them out. Interesting.
Yeah, I'm interested in this horse, and I know the 11. We've talked about the post, but this horse has run both ways. This horse has been way back and has been on the pace. I think from out here again, I think he's more likely to close. But I think the combination of being a new 4-year-old who can improve, still is coming off two decent races, 2 wins, albeit in listed stakes, remains in trading. Didn't run horribly in the Pennsylvania Derby. On that day, you were not coming from 10th. You weren't coming from 3rd, let alone 10th. So all those, and you get to Tory and the price and Pletcher. You'll see when we get to the picks. This horse is going to be in the thick of my plays.
Very interesting at a big price. And the last race, the last horse we talked about, Pete, a little bit. Skippy Longstocking, 8-1, is won almost $1.6 million. 8-1 morning line. Tyler G, who's nominated for an Eclipse Award for top jockey. I'll tell you what, you need a top jockey to win from the 12-hole for Skippy on Saturday.
Yeah, as we mentioned when I was reading an article, Safi, he was very upset about this to the point where he even thought about pulling him out, and I guess maybe still could if he can get into Saudi or something. But so I think he just wasn't happy. And I think Skippy Longstocking, the problem is I think he does his best running when he's up close and when he's sitting sort of stalking position right off the speed, which in theory he should be able to do here from a normal post position because there's speed up front. I just don't know if he's going to break here. Gaffleone did choose, I assume, chose Skippy Longstocking over O'Connor. So I don't know if that was a choice, but maybe if this pre-post position, maybe he was a little pissed once he saw the post. But I think this horse would have a pretty good shot if he just drew a little bit more inside.
The pace projector is interesting, Pete and Paul, because I think a lot of people feel like, oh, Baffert, National Treasure is going to be on the lead. Maybe he will, but look at the pace projector, guys, according to Timeform on the right side of the screen. They predict a very fast pace with Hoist the Gold on the lead, and even horses like Grand Aspen, Skippy Longstocking, and First Mission, in theory, ahead of National Treasure. And guys, if that pace projector is correct, that even goes more into my thought of National Treasure absolutely not winning this race. Here's our picks on the bottom of the screen for the 2024 Pegasus World Cup Invitational, $3 million. There it is, scrolling on the bottom of the screen. You know what? Great minds are thinking alike. We are all, no pressure on this horse, we are all going with number 8, First Mission for Cox. Paul, this horse is progressive, figures it's a nice trip. I think he has a great chance to win on Saturday.
Well, I think it's going to be a big weekend for the boys in blue. I think it's going to start Thursday night at the Breakers, and I think it's going to continue in Hallandale on Saturday afternoon.
Pete, you also have National Treasure in second. I do believe National Treasure will be the favorite, but guys, I got a feeling the First Mission is going to take a lot of money. I think it's going to be like a 2-1, 5-2 kind of situation in favor of National Treasure. I wouldn't be completely shocked if First Mission is favored, although I doubt it. I just don't think there's much of discrepancy in the win pool on Saturday, Pete, between these two.
No, I agree with that, and I echo everything about First Mission. I don't really need to go into that. My only thought with National Treasure, and I don't like this horse generally. This is a horse I generally bet against. The only reason, one of these times in a big race, and they did it in the Dirt Mile, Baffert's going to say, look, get this horse on the lead. I don't care what you have to do, and let's see what he can do. And Hoist the Gold, if he can, I mean, Hoist the Gold is fast, but so is National Treasure. So if he just goes and clears, he's shown that he's tough on the lead. My thought is one of these times, let's see if he can do it. Gulfstream Park is the place to try it. If he can do that, I think he can hold at least for a piece, which isn't saying much when you're talking about the 9-5 morning line favorite.
I have once suggested for Johnny V on Hoist the Gold. Send, please, and send as hard as you possibly can, because National Treasure has 2 big wins in his career. We talked about it, or excuse me, a big win at Preakness, which was frankly one of the worst Triple Crown races I've ever seen. No disrespect to any of the horses or the connections in the race. And we talked about the Dirt Mile in the Breeders' Cup ad nauseum. And this race is an 1/8 of a mile longer. I'm going First Mission, guys. Senior Buscador, if it heats up, and this is why if Skippy's in the race, Pete, he has to go. That's going to increase the pace. I think Senior Buscador is about as talented as anyone in this field. I don't think he's going to win, but 20-1 is silly to me, in my opinion. I think I'd love to put him underneath in some tries and maybe a small win bet of like 12-1. I'm going 8-6-5. I do have respect for Trademark. Paul, last time probably was the time, but he's run several good races before and figures to get a nice trip. I'm not going to sleep on Trademark again in a race which frankly is not the strongest Pegasus field we have seen. Ladies and gentlemen, those are our picks for the 2024 Pegasus World Cup Invitational, $3 million, race 13 on Saturday. Crush your bets in the Pegasus World Cup. Thanks a lot, everyone. Take care. Bye-bye.
If you have not followed his Triple H horse racing podcast, you're missing out. It's one of the best podcasts in the country.